What's up, everyone? We're back for a special episode of Blake&Vish Sports. It's just me, not Blake. Unfortunately, Blake is at a wedding, so I had to bring in some substitutes, and I brought in two of the best guys I know when it comes to talking ball. You know, everybody's special favorite guest, the people's favorite guest, Jason Aponte. What's going on? And then we got someone I don't think a lot of people have been introduced to. I was actually introduced to Sam Darnold through Jason on Clubhouse. Awesome dude, knows a lot about football. Might even watch more film, honestly, than me and Jason. Probably does.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah, it's really a pleasure to have you on too, Sam. What's going on, guys?
Not much, man. Just live my best life. Glad to be on the show. This is actually my first show, so excited to contribute and just learn from it.
That's awesome, Jason.
And yeah, thanks for having me, man. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And yeah, man, I'm happy to talk with you guys. You know, it's funny how our relationships all kind of grew. So you and I, Vish, we met through YouTube, and I met Sam through Clubhouse, and we all wound up linking. And that's the beauty of social media and all of them, is that it'll bring people from all walks of life together. Even if Sam is closer to me, than you, even though we're all pretty close in proximity. We're not like wild far off or whatever. But Sam's a Jets guy. We're both 49ers guys, but we live on the same side of the country. So this is exciting, man. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Jason. You're one of probably our favorite guests to have on, honestly, Jason.
I appreciate that.
Sam, you don't know what it's like to be on air with the Jason Aponte.
Like, I know.
What are we doing here?
It's really an honor, Jason. You're a professional.
just check the timeline. Jason Aponte's on a live every single day with somebody else. It's like, can you get Jason Aponte onto your show? And we've achieved it 3 times now, or 4 times, I think.
It's not that serious. You guys are exaggerated. I'm just here to talk ball, man. That's it, man. But, honestly, it was a good time to take a week off, because next week for the 49ers camp starts and the schedule comes out Wednesday. So there'll be plenty to talk about. So kind of ramped up. I kind of got back from Cleveland and just was like, I'm taking the week off, and we're going to get right back into it on Monday. So,
yeah. And before we start, I got to give a shout out to, my man Croc's in here. What's up?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is huge. But I got to give a shout out to Grant, because planning this show, I was talking to Jason, and we were struggling to really come up with topics. And that's where I got to shout out my man, Grant Cohn, the best at doing this. The fact that he's able to stream daily and come up with something new and something interesting to be engaging and talk about it, truly props to him. Jason, Sam, you didn't go through the brainstorming process with us, but Jason and I were on the phone for a good 10 minutes, and we were just shooting ideas back and forth, and we didn't really have anything. And finally, we came up with some stuff that we hope is interesting. But the way Grant does it, it's incredible. Like, I want to give him those props, because that's really amazing.
Yeah, I was shocked when I got on the show too, man. He had some stuff. I was like, how? I was like, what more can you talk about? And he found a way to come up with stuff that was actually not grabby, but very much interesting.
It's real content, real interesting to talk about. So let's get into what's real interesting in talking about. And so I'm going to give a nice preamble to this, because I know a lot of people don't have an athletic subscription. But if you do, Mike Sando, who was formerly of ESPN, I think he actually covered the Niners for ESPN for a long time. If I remember when I was little, when I was maybe 8, 9, 10, the ESPN writer for the 49ers was Mike Sando. And basically what Mike Sando does after every draft is he polls, I don't know how many executives, but he gets a poll of anonymous comments from player personnel, guys, GMs, a bunch of higher level executives within the NFL, and they talk through each draft. And when it got to the 49ers draft, right, I thought there was one particular comment that was pretty interesting that I would love to talk about here. And that's from one random executive, one salty executive. And he said, San Francisco is one of those teams that does a great job of creating a narrative, and they get treated kindly. And exec said, other teams with better records over the past 4 years get crushed. Look at some of their early draft picks. What makes you think Trey Lance is the right pick if you follow their record of early picks? And now I think this guy's a little bit salty. I think he's an exec who's taken a lot of beatings from the media in the past, but I do think there's some truth to it, and I think there is some conversation. So, Sam, you're the rookie here. I'm going to kick it off to you first. What are your thoughts about these comments? Do you think there's validity to them? What do you think about them?
I think the only point of validity there is that, historically, when trading up to get a quarterback from 12-3, it's not the best likelihood of him being successful. But that's not it's not really a point to be taken in, really. It depends on the situation. I think Trey Lance is going to the best situation there is out of all 5 quarterbacks. I don't think it's relatively close. You can argue the Jets are building something with Zach Wilson, but they're still building it. I think the Niners are ready to win right now. I think it's been that way, even with Garoppolo. And even if Lance can't start day one, I mean, he's going to a great situation. He's going to succeed. It's going to be a tough time or a tough. Oh my God, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, you're good.
Jason?
So, I mean, I think that you're right? There is a narrative around Kyle Shanahan that he can do no wrong, right? In many circles, he's regarded as, a top 3 coach, mind-wise as far as like play design, right? And I think that there is some validity to the idea that sometimes they do get away with some of those picks because they've hit on, Fred Warner, George Kittle, all those other guys. And then Kyle makes up the rest with what he does with his mind. So while I don't agree fully with whatever this executive said, there is some sort of validity to the idea that Kyle Shanahan can almost do no wrong, right? And that's why it's funny. If another team, and we talked about this when we were talking on the phone, Vish, if another team did what the 49ers did and they drafted Trey Lance, they probably get killed for the moves. And I didn't want to take your point or anything like that. I'll pass it to you right there, but because Kyle Shanahan is quote unquote getting his guy, which, that's what we all believe, I think that it's viewed differently. Like you said, if Matt Nagy did that, right? Like, let's say Matt Nagy did it, they would just be like crushing the Bears right now. So I'm interested to get your thoughts on it because you kind of sparked my mind when we were talking about that. As much as, listen, you're not going to find a bigger Kyle Shanahan, lover than me, but there is some validity to what was said about, him being a little bit bulletproof, him being the golden child, almost not feeling the pressure of it all, because everybody always has the idea of, look at the roster he took in. Okay, but then all these draft picks that you missed on, right. All that stuff all that context kind of gets lost in the shuffle just because everybody's in love with Kyle Shanahan, rightly so when it comes as a play designer. But I feel like he does get away from that criticism sometimes.
He's definitely not perfect. He's made mistakes before, especially in the Super Bowl. That's a good point where he definitely could. Like, if the Jets drafted Trey Lance, a guy from the FCS, only played 18 games, 19 games, something like that. 17 actually. So I mean, he would have got killed by New York media. I mean, Zach Wilson alone gets killed by New York media for being from BYU, not having enough competition, and NDSU is much like their competition is much worse than Alabama faces in the FBS. It's not even close. I think if he went to a different situation, he would have got killed for competition. The same thing Zach Wilson does, but even more.
Yeah, and so I think all of those things are fair points. I do want to point out our guy, Splash Cousin here. We all know him. We love him. Jordan's the man. Tannehill stan number 1 right here. The only Tannehill that's a bigger Tannehill than me. But he said it was probably Ryan Pace. That was my first thought too. I thought Ryan Pace would be the guy because this seemed like someone who's salty. And frankly, if you look at the way the Niners are covered, and I say this as a Niners fan, probably a true Shanahan like Jason, I'm a huge Kyle Shanahan fan. They are covered very favorably than what their record reflects. The Chicago Bears have made the playoffs twice out of the last 4 years. The 49ers have 3 losing seasons out of the last 4 years. Which team is looked at, Jason, where the coach, GM, everything, they're looked at as the next big thing, and which team is looked at as where fire the coach, fire the GM, everybody's gone?
Yeah, I mean, you can see that right off the bat, and even with that gaffe of the Solomon Thomas without getting Mahomes and Watson, it still hasn't given them. So everybody just remembers Trubisky, but nobody remembers that, or they do, but it's never right. Held against them to the degree.
Right, and the Niners needed a quarterback in that draft too. And whatever you want to say about Trubisky, and I've taken my fair share of shots at Trubisky over the years. I mean, it's too easy for me. He's the Chicago Bears quarterback. I know a lot of Bears fans, and calling Trubisky the next Blake Bortles was just my thing, even though Trubisky is better than Blake Bortles. But the point is that Solomon Thomas is not a better football player than Mitchell Trubisky. He is not. I think that needs to be stated. And for whatever reason, the Niners have avoided that criticism, and the Bears haven't. But I think it all comes down to one thing, and I think Mike Sando answers it. His next line in this quote after this is that Kyle Shanahan's presence is what. And I think that's important. And I'm just going to go on a little side tangent. So I was watching a little bit of Niners 2017. Don't ask me why. I think I watched like 4 games. I was just watching the Niners 2017. And my big takeaway is that now when you look at 2017, excuse me, 4 years later, now that, you're removed from the emotions of Jimmy Garoppolo coming in, going 5-0, all of that. You know what my biggest takeaway was? The way that team was coached in 2017, if Jimmy Garoppolo had started 16 games, the team would have gone 9-7. And I didn't look at that actually as, wow, Jimmy Garoppolo played incredible. Looking back, it was just, wow, CJ Beathard and Brian Hoyer, Kyle was already scheming it up so well in a lot of those games. That's why they were playing so tight with Indianapolis. That's why they played Seattle tough. That's why they played so many of those teams tough. It was just that the quarterbacks just couldn't make like 50% of the plays because those 2 quarterbacks, unfortunately, are not NFL caliber starting quarterbacks. And I think all 3 of us agree Jimmy Garoppolo is a legitimate starting caliber NFL quarterback. And when you have that level of guy with this level of coaching, you can win a lot of games because the coaching is just so well done. And I think that really answers this question. That's the problem. Like when you look at Matt Nagy, you don't look at it as if he gets Justin Fields, now all of a sudden they're going to change it. I think people are looking at it as whoever Kyle wants. If he likes him enough, he gets him. He can do all these things because there's so much already schemed up for the quarterback. And I think that's really where, like, I get why this exact, I'm assuming it's Ryan Pace, but why this exact is salty. But if you don't have, unfortunately, there's only one of Kyle Shanahan, and there's only like 4 or 5 guys who are on his level. And that's why people are so optimistic about the potential.
Yeah, I mean, and then, Kyle's never really been seen with his guy. That's the other thing that people are gravitating to, right? RG3 was forced on him. Kirk Cousins, he only coached for 3 games. And remember, Sean McVay is the one who really developed Kirk more than anything, even if that's an offshoot of that offense. Sean McVay deserves a lot of that credit. Kyle's never really had his guy. So now everybody's excited to see this play designer with someone that he desires, right? And that's what I think more than anything everybody's gravitating to. It's like, hey, man, we already know this guy's been scheming it open for every single quarterback. Now, whether they make the plays is one thing or the other. But now if he sees and identifies someone and makes this drastic move from 12 to 3, then this has got to be great, right? So I think that's really what it is more than anything. Matt Nagy doesn't have that stigma around him. He doesn't have that narrative around him of being a play caller like that. So I think that's another thing too as well. Again, I'm not trying to talk bad about Coach. I'm just trying to be objective right here down the middle. And I think this is where he skirts some of that criticism because he's never had his guy, and now this is his opportunity to develop.
On the other hand, now that he has his guy, there's definitely pressure there for Shanahan to, let's see what you got, unlock the playbook, let's see what you can do.
Yep. For sure.
There's definitely pressure 100%. There. So,
and
so it sounds like he's definitely has to prove himself. Yeah,
for sure. And this is that nuance that goes beyond just, wins and losses in a guy's record and all of that. Like, look at Adam Gase. Adam Gase with a terrible, terrible Jets roster 2 years ago went 7-9. Kyle only went 6-10 last year with an injured 49ers roster, but it had a top 5 defense. But that's where it gets to, do you watch them? What are you seeing when you watch them? How much is a coach impacting the game? And you can see that Adam Gase offensively is not elevating his offense or his players are maximizing his players as well as Kyle Shanahan clearly is. And I think that's really important. And that's why people have this stigma. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on, and I think this is the guy that doesn't get enough credit, it's John Lynch's role. John Lynch is from the media, so Fox loves John Lynch, right? He worked at Fox, so Fox won't say anything bad about John Lynch. John Lynch is also probably the single most personable person, probably says the right thing more than anybody I've ever seen. He always is interesting. He's always kind. He's respectful. He always has the right things to say. And when you look at all of those things, I think it's really tough to say anything bad about John Lynch because he's been successful in every walk of life he's participated in, and he's just the ultimate guy.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to touch on with Nagy is I think I lost it, actually. Damn it. All right, I'm sorry. My bad. Come back to me real quick, guys, because I had it for a second there. Yeah.
You got anything to add? I know we dug deep with a little bit of Adam Gase right there.
Well, no. I mean, Adam Gase was just special coach to watch. Everything he ran was just didn't go away. Jason,
no. I remember real quick. So when I was talking about when you were talking about Nagy elevating, right? If anything, he's been having to dumb his playbook down to people, like get it all the way down and strip it down. And maybe that has to do more with personnel, but he's not elevating Mitchell Trubisky. He had to push the offense towards him, give him all those easy throws, and basically force feed David Montgomery to take all that pressure off of him. So in a way, yeah, it's almost the same thing. But I feel like with him, that play calling doesn't get looked at as elevating. It gets looked at as more like, I'm just trying to survive, right here with them. Whereas if it was Kyle might be able to elevate that with a little bit more of getting guys open. There it is. I'm sorry. That's
I actually 100% agree with that point. What Matt Nagy did the last 5 games of last year is what he should have done with Mitchell Trubisky his entire career. If Mitchell Trubisky had started off with Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay, he would be looked at the same way Jared Goff is looked at. If you put him in an offense that puts him under center, you go 21, 22 personnel, you protect him with play action, you process the game for him, you give him half-field reads, ton of boots, all of those things, and utilize his athleticism, he would be looked at as that kind of player. Instead, he's looked at as a massive, massive bust because Matt Nagy tried putting him in the gun. They tried running RPOs. They tried running all these random trick plays. They basically tried being a version of Kansas City's offense when that's not the style of quarterback they had. And I respect Matt Nagy for making the adjustment and handing over the play calling duties and then them running that little bootleg version of Sean McVay's offense for the last 5 games of last year. But I do think that's the most important point, that when you look at the coach, you can't just look at the results. You also have to look at, are they maximizing their players? And it's the Adam Gase example. He went 7-9 with the Jets 2 years ago, but he wasn't maximizing his players, even though there weren't a lot of good ones on that roster. And Shanahan always maximizes his players. And that's why the Niners have a very positive stigma.
To put Adam Gase and Matt Nagy in a similar place is that they both play too much trial and error with young quarterbacks. You really can't do that from a schematic point of view. I thought they tried too many things, and the courts were put in too many bad situations, and it just ruins them. It gives them no rhythm, gives them no confidence, and confidence is such a big thing for quarterbacks, always, and it really killed their confidence. They really couldn't bounce back from that, especially Sam Darnold. If you watched him, his last couple of games of the Jets.
Yeah, 100% agree. And Jason, do you have anything before we move on?
No, this is honestly a really, really good topic because, like I said, when we talked, this was going to be a good conversation because there is points that I agree with on this, even if I don't agree with the overall point. Like whoever this is and he's saying whatever he is about Kyle Shanahan, I can agree to a certain degree that he has skirted criticism. But at the same time, there is that portion of, hey, he's never had his guy, so he's not only built up the stigma with being a play caller, now he's going to get his guy, so people are going to let him get a little bit more free reign. So that's where I disagree. Does definitely sound like whoever this executive is, he's very salty. He just doesn't like the fact that I'm being picked apart and Kyle Shanahan can't do any wrong. Well, design plays better, man, and you'll get that.
Right.
Hey, that's the
right.
thing.
And you get it too, right? You go down the list, like Dante Pettis was a high pick, and Jalen Hurd hasn't really worked out, and Kyle Shanahan's supposed to be the receiver guy, and he's 2 for 4 on first 3 rounds receivers. So I do get it, but kind of to put a bow on this entire discussion, I think the big thing is, yeah, you're right. Like I think there is some validity to this comment that the Niners do maybe get a fair shake from the media, but it's just not to be cliche, but life just isn't fair. Sorry. More talented people are going to get more opportunities, and they're just going to be given more rope to succeed because of their talent. And Kyle Shanahan is the most talented at coaching and offensive play calling, possibly in the entire NFL. And so I think that's why he's always going to get that longer rope than somebody like Nagy, where you don't see the special traits.
One more thing, too. Also, on top of all that, Kyle Shanahan has context to each season to why things went wrong. Took over a terrible roster in 2017. Jimmy, electrifies a little bit. 2018, he gets hurt. Okay, that season's wiped out. 2019, they made the Super Bowl. Okay, you'll be back. 2020, okay, the entire team's decimated. So each year, you can get context to why the 49ers were bad. It's not necessarily that they were just bad. Like every single year, there's a new reason, or there's more context to the discussion about why they were what either bad or why they were good. So,
Sam, I know we've kind of kept you out, so I'm going to change the topic real quick. But before we go, Jason, I will say this, and I'll say this only to maintain objectivity. We follow the Niners closely, so we know all the reasons to that. I feel like every bad team in NFL history we can point out. Like, if I really wanted to, I feel like I could make 15 excuses for Adam Gase because I thought Mike McCagnon was one of the worst GMs in the history of football with the guys he
pretty
picked.
bad.
So yeah. I think that as bad as Gase was, I could still make that argument. But yes, I do think that is a fair point.
Well, I think you can make excuses for everyone. Yeah, I mean, I think you can make excuses for everyone, but at the same time, you got to hold everyone accountable because at the end of the day, I mean, Gase was still a very important part of that team. I mean, there's no more important position or part of a football team than the head coach.
Right.
I mean, he has his own staff. I mean, for Gase, you can argue that he didn't build a good enough staff around his players, but that's a problem with a lot of coaches out there who didn't succeed.
100%. And so that was awesome discussion, guys. So I want to kind of go to our second topic, and we got some more Niners things to talk about, but there's something like, Jason, you and I haven't really talked after the draft. Sam, you and I have been kind of texting here back and forth. But a theme that the three of us had in common before this draft is after we watched all these quarterbacks and we went through watching all the throws and all of that, we were all three of us were big Justin Fields fans. And, Jason and I both really wanted Justin Fields to be a Niners quarterback. Sam actually really wanted Justin Fields to go to the Jets.
And, so, it didn't happen, but.
Yeah, so let's talk about Justin Fields for just a little bit. I know Niners fans don't want to hear about Justin Fields. He's now old news, but just let's talk about what we think, how he thinks he's going to be on the Bears, and what we think of him going 11, and just everything about it. Sam, I'm going to kick it to you first.
Well, I think similar to what I said with Shanahan, it puts a lot of pressure on Nagy. I mean, he has to, he had all the excuses in the book with Trubisky, but now he has his guy. They traded up a lot for him. Now you got to perform. I think coming in there, Justin Fields is a perfect fit for what they want to do. I think he's really good off boot. I mean, he's the most accurate quarterback in the college football in a very long time. He's really good off boot action, out of the pocket, very good. In the pocket, he's really good too. I mean, I think it'll be hard for Nagy to, just make it as bad as he made the Trubisky situation.
Yeah, Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah, bittersweet, man. Honestly, look, I made no bones about it. I wanted Justin Fields bad. Like every day I was tweeting about him. That was my prediction for it. But, I'm more than happy with Trey Lance. So when I started my quarterback process, I started with Trey Lance, and I fell in love with Trey Lance right away. When I finally got to the end of it was when I was like, oh my God, Justin Fields, right? And for all the things that Sam just talked about. In the pocket, being able to pick defenses apart when you give them time, rocket arm, 4.4 speed. And then the last thing that I really thought that was going to make Kyle Shanahan fall in love with him was the toughness. You crack your ribs, and then you go and you throw 5 more tutties in that game, and you beat the golden boy, like that type of stuff. After Kyle Shanahan watched quarterback after quarterback, his whole team basically just waste away with injuries, it had to, I thought it would entice him a little bit to look at Justin Fields and say, look at this kid. He's going to come right back out here and play. Let's just say that the kid is huge and everything as well. But as far as like his impact with the Bears, the biggest winner of this entire, of this entire pick, not Matt Nagy, not Ryan Pace, Allen Robinson. I'm happy for you, bro. You're finally going to have a quarterback who's going to throw you the ball. So if you guys thought Allen Robinson was good before, now imagine a quarterback who's going to be super accurate with him with the ball. He's already a 50-50 catch guy. He's already somebody who just gets himself open all the time. Any reason that he never had numbers wasn't because the quarterback, wasn't because of anything other than the quarterback either not seeing him or not getting the ball anywhere near him. So Allen Robinson, I'm happy for you. But this is the type of move that had to be made from them, right? You have one more year, basically. This is it. This is why I don't really understand why anybody is saying that Andy Dalton's going to start. I'm not certain that Matt Nagy is going to have rope to do 1 or 2 years. If they want to give him the 2-year thing, okay, maybe. But this feels like a swing for the fence. We're going to get Justin Fields, and if he wows this year, I get to keep my job, and so does Ryan Pace. So I love it, especially when you think about where he was at 11, and when you hear the Denver Broncos say, we like Justin Fields, but we like Pat Surtain more. Was just like one of the most baffling things I've ever heard in like my entire life, honestly. I get the fact that you have Locke and you have Bridgewater, but are you telling me that you liked a potential franchise quarterback and you took a corner instead? I don't know about that one, honestly, unless you disagree. Again, Vish, I mean, I know you probably got a disagreement with it, but man, I don't know if you can. I don't know.
Remember the news,
yeah,
Jason? Do you remember the big news 1 hour before the draft? And do you remember which team was allegedly close?
So you think that they're still in on Rodgers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's fine. If that's the case, then I'll take back everything that I said there. If they think that's the case, but for you to come out and say, yeah, we like Justin Fields, but we like, Pat Surtain better. I don't know if I would have framed it that way, because that sounds bad, honestly, when you think about what's being said. So look, what he's gonna do for the Bears is, this is probably the best quarterback coming out of college that they've had ever. I mean, I don't even think it's close, honestly. So, I mean, it's going to bring a lot of excitement to them. And again, if Matt Nagy can't get it done with him, with Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, and, Montgomery, Cohn, Tariq Cohn still there. Yeah. Oh, Graham. No, Cole Kmet. My dynasty shares need Cole Kmet to finally happen. Jimmy Graham, go away. It's done. No, but honestly, there's weapons there. They can get it done. Now, you get to open up your offense a little bit more. Remember when I talked about him shrinking it down to Trubisky? Now you get to open it up now for Justin Fields now. So, Matt Nagy, this is on you, bro. This is a lot of pressure on you. Just like Sam said, if you can't make it work with this kid, you're out of here. And that's why I don't understand why Andy Dalton will start day one.
I'll talk about my quarterback rankings for a second. So
go for it.
Coming in, like pre-2020 season, I watched a lot of Fields, watched a lot of Lance, their 2019 seasons. I thought Fields was better from the start, but I did like Lance. I thought he was really good, but I did think he would need another season just to see like what he can do. And when he didn't have that other season, his one game 2020, his showcase game, not really impressive. 3 interception. I think he only had that's his first one in college, and it wasn't really that worst play, but like he just didn't put it together. He looked nervous. He looked like he needed to like calm down a little bit. Yeah, in the pocket. I mean, he didn't look calm in the pocket at all. He looked like he wanted to showcase or show off a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I thought Fields was better in Lance coming in. Lawrence obviously number 1. And then Zach Wilson came all of a sudden out of nowhere. Did not watch Zach Wilson at all on tape. I'm a USC fan, so I did watch him a little bit against BYU when BYU upset him in 2019. I didn't really watch the game too much. I think I was busy that day, but I remember seeing score, and I was like, BYU, like Zach, like who's their core, like who's on their team? How they beat us? And we were ranked at the time. I think we were like in the high 20s. So I remember watching their film, Zach Wilson's film BYU, and he was lights out. I originally had him over Fields and Lance, but once I took a look at Fields again, his 2020 film, went back to 2019, I kind of had Fields still better quarterback. I think all around, I think it higher ceiling. Floor wise, I mean, it's close. I don't like when looking at quarterbacks, it's hard to quantify ceiling and floors because that's not really how you want to look at quarterbacks in the first place. It's just hard. It really has any position too.
I don't. Not to cut in, but I actually don't get this idea of projecting floor based on NFL readiness because 98% of, if you're a good offensive coordinator, part of your job is to adjust your entire offense to what your quarterback did in college. Like if Matt Nagy brings Justin Fields in and they try to run Andy Reid's 2005 West Coast offense, well then, Matt Nagy, you deserve to be fired because that's not what you do with Justin Fields. But if you're running, a drive with with smash, you're running a drive to the boundary with smash to the field. That's something he did in college. Do it in the pros. You're running smash to the boundary with 2 digs to the field. Something he did in college. You're running
the amount of research. The amount of research that scouting departments do on these players. I mean, it's obvious they know these things. It's very obvious. They know everything with this quarterback. They go like the high school. They go like even before high school. I mean, they know like as much as you think the media knows about these players. The NFL scouting departments know so much about these players, especially the quarterbacks. I mean, they started scouting. The teams who drafted quarterbacks this year, they started scouting quarterbacks probably like 2-3 years ago. They probably looked at Justin Fields, before he even transferred to Ohio State. I mean, that's something to keep in mind. So back to that. So my final rankings was Lawrence, Fields at 2, Wilson at 3, Lance at 4, and Mac Jones at 5.
Yeah. So just continuing with this, my thoughts of him going to the Bears, my first thought was honestly that this is irresponsible ownership. How can you allow a GM and coach who are on the last year of their contract, who you haven't committed to, sacrifice future assets to go get a player that they might not even be around to coach and handle?
It was desperate.
That's desperate. That's how you screw a player. Like unless you are committing to yourself to Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, how can you allow both of them to make this move? So that was my first takeaway. My next takeaway is my initial thoughts after the drafts was like, wow, like I love Justin Fields before this process and he really got screwed. But then you go back and you look and you watch and I didn't think it was that bad. And I actually think, like, in terms of Matt Nagy, if he's trying to run a Mahomes-like offense, Justin Fields is probably a good fit. I don't think he's exactly Mahomes. I don't think that the RPO game is exactly what you want to do all the time with Fields.
Like Mahomes.
Right.
It's kind of hard to compare.
And obviously they run a lot of air raid concepts too. And Mahomes, that's straight from college, all of that. But I do think there's a plausible fit. The biggest question for me, and it's going to be with Matt Nagy, and this is going to be the question going forward, is Justin Fields is special in the run game, right? I think we can all agree that that's one of his traits. Like Zach Wilson's a good runner. Trevor Lawrence is a really good runner, but Lance and Fields were by far the best runners, and they were like special. Like, they aren't Lamar Jackson, but outside of Lamar, I can't remember two guys being this special as just runners in a draft since in the last 10 years. So I do think like
Fields and Lance.
Yes.
You said Fields and Lance. I mean, you could throw in Lawrence there too.
Yeah, Lawrence and Wilson, to be honest, too. Both all good runners. But
Wilson's, I mean, in the NFL, Wilson's he can't be trucking guys, obviously his frame.
Because of his size,
but he's much more a twitchy athlete than Fields or Lance or Lawrence. And that helps the NFL, especially in the pocket. When you're a twitchy athlete as a quarterback in the pocket, you're going to be able to avoid rushers, stuff like that.
Yeah, but the big question for me is, can Matt Nagy utilize that aspect of it? Because one of the things that's been kind of the underrated struggle with Matt Nagy and Mitchell Trubisky is that Matt Nagy has just been unable to find ways to use Mitchell Trubisky's legs. Mitchell Trubisky is a good athlete, and one of the problems that a lot of people have had with the Bears offense over the years is that, and it's one of the problems, again, Sam, this goes right back to you, Adam Gase didn't utilize Sam Darnold's athleticism. And it's kind of the same thing. So that's going to be one thing that will be interesting to see moving forward. Can Matt Nagy really take full advantage of what's a special ability to run with Justin Fields? And then the other thing is, you guys talked about it, and I wanted to hammer it home. Justin Fields is the most gifted quarterback in the history that the Chicago Bears. I'm sorry, Sid Luckman, he is like 40 years before I was even like born or conceived or anything. So I can't talk about him. But like the quarterbacks, at least I've kind of seen, Jim McMahon, I think Fields is more talented. Jim Harbaugh, who was a first-round pick, I think Fields is definitely more talented. Cade McNown, looking back in the 99 draft, if you go watch like college highlights of Cade McNown, you're surprised he even went in the first round. So Fields is definitely more talented. And then Mitchell Trubisky, I think we all agree Fields is more talented.
How dare you disrespect Kyle Orton like that? I'm sorry.
He wasn't a first-round pick. Oh, but Rex, good point. Rex Grossman.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fields is more talented than him, too. So this is by far the most talented quarterback in the history of the Chicago Bears. And I think it'll be cool to see, because I think we're all fans of him. We'll all be rooting for the players. I definitely won't be rooting for the Chicago Bears. I promise I won't be rooting for them, but I'll definitely be rooting for the player. And it'll be interesting to see how his career turns out.
100%.
Absolutely. I'm rooting for him, too. Definitely.
I think back to the Adam Gase thing, it'll be interesting to see how Carolina uses him. Matt Rule. I think Joe Brady runs a very, very quarterback-friendly offense, and it'll just be fun to see.
Out.
Yeah, I mean, it'll just be it'll hurt a little bit, but see. It's definitely it'll hurt. But I mean, I'm fine with Zach Wilson. I'm more than fine with Zach Wilson, to be honest.
Right.
Any of the
if we're going to talk about Sam Darnold real quick, I actually think Joe Brady's a little overrated.
Hey. I mean,
I think it's a really good offense. It's a good scheme, but I think Joe Brady isn't over. I think he's a little simple, actually. I don't think he's he's like looked at as this genius creative guy. I don't look at him as like I think he makes the job for the quarterback easy, which is always a good thing. But in terms of doing wildly creative or groundbreaking things, I don't think that he's doing that. I think he has a really, really sound scheme, and he does a good job play calling within it.
I just think it's a bit of you can go. Okay. I just think it's a bit of a stretch to consider him as a head coach, especially like any head coach interviews last year is definitely a bit of a stretch. But yeah, I don't know. I thought everywhere he goes, he makes life easier for the quarterbacks, and in a quarterback-friendly or NFL that is today, he's going to get jobs no matter what. He's going to get he's going to go as high as he can go. So I think you can go.
No, the other thing I was going to say is it's more about personnel when it comes to them, right? Because I think that Terrace Marshall is going to push DJ Moore into the slot, which is a nightmare. He immediately becomes, listen, look at me in the camera. DJ Moore immediately becomes the best slot receiver in the league. If he plays any shot of him doing 70, 75 in the slot, he's better than anybody. Not Cole Beasley, not anybody. I don't care who you bring up.
Well, Moore there. You ever heard of Elijah Moore? I don't know if you ever heard of him, but
I'm sorry, Sam. It's not close.
No, but look, honestly, you move DJ inside, Robbie will go outside. You already have McCaffrey. So while you're right, Vish, I agree with you that maybe Joe Brady's a little bit overrated. That scheme is sound enough where I really see really good things for Sam Darnold, honestly. They did so many good things last year with Teddy. There was so many plays left on the field, dude. And I don't know if that's, I'm not trying to take a shot at Teddy, but there were shots down the field. DJ Moore could have done so much more. If Sam can even hit 25 to 30% of what was left on the field for Teddy, man, he's going to have an amazing year, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not to talk too much about the Panthers and Sam Darnold or whatever, but yeah, I 100%, the Teddy point, I 100% agree with you. I watched a little bit of Panthers. I think I watched like 6 or 7 of their games just like after the season just cause. And one of my biggest takeaways is, wow, like during the season, I was like, man, the Niners had Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard and even Jimmy when he played this season. Like, they're not taking advantage of what's there. I watched Teddy Bridgewater last season, and, he's a good quarterback. He's a borderline starter. He can start for you sometimes within a season, probably the best backup in the NFL. And I was like, phew, there's other teams going through it, and Teddy was going through it in spades because they're so talented, like you said, and they will be again next year, that there were so many plays there for the quarterback to make, and Teddy was just not making them because he just wasn't aggressive enough, or he just didn't have enough of an arm or the ability to make those throws.
Yep. I love DJ Moore also, by the way, just in case you guys were.
Me too, huge fan. So let's go back to this Niners topic, right? I mean, when you got Jason Aponte on, you got to talk about the 49ers. It's you have to do it because this is a Niners expert. Sam, you didn't know this. Jason Aponte.
But I like talking other teams. I do. That's why I like coming on here with you and Blake, because I get to talk other football. That's why I love doing that show with Jared, because we get to talk other things. But I do love the Niners. But go ahead.
Right, 100%. But Jason, you're an expert. We got to get an expert opinion from you here. Mm-hmm. And so I've been on Twitter since I think the end of September, and the one thing I've learned is that I thought the Niners fan base was this classy, super the best fan base, all of that looking from afar. One thing I've found out is that the Niners fan base is angry and feisty. And, you like it because, you want your fans to be feisty and all that, and you're, proud of it. But, man, they go at each other. So we've gone through a season debating Jimmy Garoppolo's injuries, to debating Jimmy Garoppolo's spot on the team, to debating who they should take at 3. And now we got it. I mean, Jason, I don't even want to talk about this. I know you don't want to talk about this, Sam. I don't even know how much you care about this. But we have to have this conversation. There's been a lot made of who the 49ers guy was. Mike Silver says, I think, the crowd noise got to Kyle Shanahan a little bit. Mike Lombardi says, I guarantee you that the reason they picked Trey Lance was because the fans got to them. So let's just talk about this real quick. Do you think Trey Lance was the 49ers guy from day one?
I'll say yes because I can't prove otherwise. But there's something fishy about the way this whole thing is happening right now. As much as, the 49ers don't leak. The one thing that we got right, the only thing we got right, that it wasn't Mac, right? That's the only thing that we got right. So with this, right, I think that let's just say you're skeptical on this, right, Vish? You're skeptical on the idea that the 49ers traded up to 3 and didn't know exactly who it was, right? Because for me, it has to feel like, hey, if you're moving up to 3, you've done your evaluations on everybody and you selected your guy. That's it. It shouldn't be we're moving to 3, so now we can start evaluating right now in this short time to figure out who this is, right? They did a great job of making sure that they schedule pro days with both Justin Fields, Trey Lance, running the Shanahan concepts through, right? Even going to Mac Jones's pro day, just to throw everybody off the scent and send everybody the other way, right? But there is something fishy, right? A little bit about this whole process, right? So whether it's Trey Lance the entire time, when you talk about it and you listen to them putting it through the press conferences and they talk through their timeline, you hear Kyle Shanahan say, I went to Cabo to my beach house, watched a bunch of film. That was it. I called John Lynch and said, Trey Lance, are you ready to draft Trey Lance? And John Lynch says, Really, that's who I wanted the entire time, but I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to pollute the process, right? Those were his words, right? Like, that's what he says.
Wait,
like,
I do have a question about this.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, the timeline was he went to Cabo and they then decided, hey, we got to move up to 3 because Kyle said, I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with both Mac Jones and Trey Lance, and I feel that we need to get one of them. That's what he said on the Rich Eisen show. So and then Monday before the draft, before the presser, he said he called John Lynch that night and he said, he sent John Lynch the film in January and said, I'm really infatuated with what I could do with this guy. And John Lynch fell in love with him then. And then he called him the Monday, the week of the draft. And I think this is the timeline and said, I think we got to draft Trey Lance. And John Lynch was over the moon because he had been convinced for a longer period of time. And he wasn't sure if Kyle was there with him.
Right.
And is that funny? Did you guys watch the Rich Eisen show where he was talking about how like one day he was watching, Lance or Fields or any of the quarterbacks. And he's like, oh my God, I love this about him. And the next day he'd watch him and be like, wait, what did I like about this guy? Or like, what was I watching about this guy I like so much? And I, from my perspective, I agree that so much because one day I can be watching a quarterback and I say, wow, like this guy's really good. He's got a strong arm, really accurate, good decision making. And next day, if I go to that film, it's just like, what was I looking at? Like, what did I love so much with this guy? Like, he's not as special as I thought he was. And that was a good point because it could be that, Shanahan was, I don't know if he was comparing Jones and Lance or Fields and Lance or all 3 guys. No one really knows. Even Wilson, who knows when he knew that the Jets were going to get Wilson? Could have been at the pro day, could have been just a couple days before. We really don't know that for sure. But I really think he went, back and forth with different guys. I really think Fields in the picture. I mean, I don't think it was possible that he wasn't in the picture unless there's some other reason we don't know. But my opinion is that he went back and forth on either, 2 or 3 guys. And, when he made that trade, he was kind of confident, hey, like, it's probably going to be Lance for me.
Yeah, and I mean, more than anything, I'll say that I do think that it was Trey the entire time. I just don't know. I'm more skeptical about how they got to it. I don't care what they say, honestly, more than anything. I think that they've done a great job of disguising things and just saying whatever it is that, again, John Lynch works the media and it's all been, it's all been really well done, but I mean, I have to say that I think that Trey was the pick, but I don't know how certain I am of it, honestly, the whole way, and that's a good point, Sam, about how, hey, one day it's like he probably woke up and was like, okay, today's Fields, and then maybe it's another day, but he afforded himself that time, I guess, in that little time. But
exactly.
That goes back to but that's what we were talking about, Vish. You trade up to 3 and you're like going back and forth with guys that is kind of scary.
Yeah.
It's 100% scary. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one thing we can all agree on is that whoever the Niners had drafted, even if they had drafted Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond, Davis Mills, they were going to say this is the guy from day one, right?
Right.
They have to say that because as a football team, as a group or ownership group, and that Jed York is, and as like the head coach GM, if you traded up to 3 for the spot and the right to evaluate 5 quarterbacks and eventually pick one, you gave up that many future assets, you look stupid. You trade up because you believe in one guy. That's why you trade up in the draft. That's how it's always been, and that's how it should be. You believe that one quarterback is more special than the others, and you have to get him. So I think we can agree with that. Whoever they'd gotten, they were going to say. I don't think they're lying to us. I think Trey Lance is a guy they have loved from day one, and I think he was one of their guys from day one. I just don't think they're telling us the full story, and that's what it is. I think that the media has gotten some of this right. I think the Niners are also telling us the truth, and I think the actual truth is lying somewhere in between. And I was joking about this with a friend. I don't actually want to find out the actual truth, and the reason I don't want to find out the actual truth is because the actual truth of this situation is only coming out in one exact situation, and that is if Trey Lance busts. If Trey Lance busts, everybody will be pushing their narrative as to what they thought in that situation. Kyle will be saying he liked Mac Jones. Somebody in the organization will be saying they like Justin Fields. Somebody in the organization, they're going to pin it on somebody. That's just how it goes in the NFL. And so we'll get more facts than we've ever gotten. But if Trey Lance is wildly successful, which I think all 3 of, I don't know about Sam. I don't know how he feels about the 49ers, but Jason and I are hoping that he can 100% be wildly successful, and I think that he's more than capable of being wildly successful, then we're never going to find out, because nobody's want to attach themselves to I wanted Fields or I wanted Lance when just when Trey Lance is that successful. So I think that's there. But I think the ultimate thing is that I do think that they're telling the truth that Trey Lance was one of their guys from day one. The reason I can't say he was their exact guy that from day one is only because when Eric Branch asked a direct question, a question that they have not refrained from answering in their previous 4 drafts, they didn't answer it. He asked him, was Lance, Wilson, and Lawrence your 3 guys? And Kyle Shanahan didn't answer it. But in 2017, they openly shared that their 3 guys were Myles Garrett, Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster. In 2018, they shared that their most impressive players in the draft were Mike McGlinchey, Derwin James, and Sony Michel. Those were the guys that wowed them. In 2019, John Lynch said it was between Quinnen Williams and Nick Bosa. In 2020, they openly told us that their top 2 receivers were Brandon Ayuk and CeeDee Lamb. So it's not like this information is something that this regime has never shared with us. They've always told us this, right? So them not saying that just makes me go, okay, maybe there's something to it. But I don't think it's like, oh, the fans changed their mind and all of that. I think they like Trey Lance from day one, and they reached a point where they love Trey Lance more than everyone else.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, real quick, Sam. Okay,
Sam. Yeah, don't discount the NFL East. Also, telling them to not to make sure that none of that stuff really comes out because of the ratings. Also, that was the second highest draft, and honestly, everybody was talking about the 49ers. Doesn't matter what team you liked. After 1 and 2, it didn't matter. Everybody was talking about 3. That's all I wanted to say. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, at the end of the day, no matter how smart we think Shanahan is, or like how smart the media think he is, I mean, he emphasized in the Rich Eisen show that it's all a guess. This is a completely a guess. I mean, no matter how much he's seen on Trey Lance and Mac Jones or who he thought was a better quarterback, he's guessing, and to see like if he's the best one out of the group. And we'll see. We'll see if he's successful or not. But I think it's different from the other positions, like Nick Bosa or the other draft picks, that they're totally guessing on this one because the quarterback is the hardest position to evaluate, and it's not even close. So, I mean, we'll see. I don't think they want to reveal that because they don't want their thought process to be revealed. But, I mean, it's just, to me, it's just they're guessing more on the quarterbacks than any other position. That's why I don't think they want to reveal their thought process or, like, who they had ranked, like, where.
That I think that's an incredible point, actually. I think that is a really good point, and I just to piggyback off of it, even though it kind of disagrees with what I said, because I think that is the point. The one thing I will say, the other thing I will say is that the one thing the Niners have going for them is that whoever they draft, they have the best opportunity to maximize. But to say that like this isn't still a crapshoot and that there is still not that many questions with Trey Lance or Justin Fields or with Mac Jones or with Zach Wilson, whoever they drafted is just not true. The only thing is that whatever happens, I think we can all agree that whoever the Niners draft, just based on what we know of them now, or now Trey Lance, he just won't be a bust because he's in too good of a situation to bust. Like he would have to be Jamarcus Russell to bust in this situation, and he's obviously not that. So he's not going to bust. It's just the question is, can he be the guy? Can he live up fully to all of his talent, his immense talent? And
the conversation.
Right. And that's what we'll see 5-10 years from now.
Agreed.
So, yeah, real quick before we move on, this guy, I do have to give a shout out. I haven't seen this guy in the comment section in a little bit. My man, Grand Riser, I didn't say I would get you on the show, but I said I would shout you out because this man has been, I think he comes under another name. He has 2 names, but he comes in here he was coming at me and Blake for about a month and telling us, it's Trey Lance. You guys are dumb. It's Trey Lance. It's Trey Lance. And there were a lot more people than him, so I do want to shout all of them out. You guys were 100% right. It was Trey Lance. You guys saw it. I didn't. Great call.
Good call.
Especially you, Grand Riser.
Yep.
So let's get back to non-Niners stuff, guys. Cool. We all watched the draft. We all watched a lot of prospects. Jason, I don't know how many you watched. I watched about 45 just so that I can do one first-round mock draft. I watched like 8 quarterbacks, and then I just tried to watch as many of the first-round type guys just so that I can have a sound opinion. Sam, I know you watched close to 100.
I was actually the opposite of you. I didn't do as much the first-round guys as I wanted to. I actually was trying to find that, that diamond in the rough type guy. So I was looking at all the small schools. The way I was taught to scout was always don't look at the first-round guys first. Look at the small school guys and go up from there. So I was looking at like the late round guys, trying to see like, you know, who could rise as like the year going on, who would fall. And yeah, I mean, it was a fun process. You know, you find a lot of guys who are very underrated, and you try to find reasons why they weren't drafted where you thought they were going to get drafted. And you get disappointed because of that, because, you know, no matter how much you love a guy, you know, you have like a 4th round grade in him or a 3rd round grade. I mean, he
you
could
want to be right so bad.
Yeah, I mean, no, he could go undrafted. He can go in the 7th round, and you just have to deal with it. You have to accept that, you know, you were either wrong about your analysis or that something came up, like his medicals, his character issues, you know, stuff you can't see on film.
Right. Like I was my guy with that. I have 2 guys with that, and we'll talk about them. We'll talk about one of them. But like, I was 100% convinced that Terrace Marshall, there was no way he would get out of the top 30. I thought he was better than Bateman. I thought he was better than your guy, Elijah Moore.
Yeah, no, actually, there's no way I thought Elijah Moore was going to get out of the 1st round. And
yeah, and yeah, so it's a little disappointing when you find out, because like this was my first time really doing this, and like obviously, like what do I know? Like I always defer to NFL teams. I think they know a ton. I could keep going and saying ton more than me. So you're just a learning process. It's also because, and it's just disappointing, you know, because you think you got this thing right, and then you didn't get it right.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also because we only have access to the film, and NFL teams have access, you know, the film. They get to interview each guy. You know, they get every single look possible with this guy. They get to reach out to like their family, you know, their high school coaches, their college coaches, everything like possible. And the quarterbacks is even more than that. And, you know, they get every single look at this guy. And then from there, they make their analysis on that. For us, just the film and maybe, you know, the combine results or like, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah. So let's continue with that draft theme, right? We all watched a decent amount of guys. We all have our favorites. So let's talk about that. What was your favorite pick about the draft? Sam, we'll start with you. You give us your favorite pick. We'll talk about that guy for about a few minutes, and then we'll go to Jason, and finally I'll give my favorite pick. But yeah, we'll have small conversations about each of these. Sam, your favorite pick in the 2021 NFL
I don't think
draft.
people agree with this. You know, I didn't see a ton of hate, but I heard there's a ton of hate on this guy. I loved the 1st round pick, Peyton Turner to the Saints. You know, I think he's built like ex-Saints edges, you know, or he's even built like Cam Jordan. I mean, it was hard. You know, once you watch this film, you saw like he had all the physical traits of a 1st round pick, you know, and you read articles about him. He had the character of a 1st round pick. He had the football smarts of a 1st round pick. And you just knew he wasn't going to drop out of the 1st round for those reasons. I mean, NFL teams for edges, they value physical traits so much and like the potential. I mean, you look at Jason Owe, he barely had any production in college, but he had all the physical traits that you want to use in the pros. And because of that, he won the 1st round. So I think Peyton Turner's a really good fit for the Saints. You know, they're a depleted team. They cut a lot of guys this offseason, and they need to like get their guys, you know, they get core guys back, especially guys in cheap contracts, like a rookie deal. So they kind of have to hit this draft and other drafts, like future drafts, like next year in 2023. So I think Peyton Turner is a great start at that. I love the pick. You know, edge is a very important position, and I was really happy they attacked that in the 1st round.
100%. Jason, thoughts on Peyton Turner?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that Sam said, actually. You know, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's these picks look bad right away, but, you know, you have to give them time in hindsight because it doesn't really matter, right? You know, like when everybody says, oh, this person's overdrafted, well, it won't matter. If the guy pans out to what they think they are, go get your guy. And that's really what it'll be about. So we'll see in a few years how it works. But I think that he definitely does profile as that, like, Davenport, like, you know, Cam Jordan guy, like that Sam was saying. So, like, yeah, I have no disagreements with that, honestly.
Yeah, I actually liked the Peyton Turner pick. I don't know why people hated it so much. Like, sure, I thought maybe I might have liked maybe Ojulari and Jason Owe and Joe Tryon maybe a little bit better. But if that, I thought they were all kind of wild cards in their own way. Like Ojulari, I thought maybe could have been a little more explosive. And then Tryon and Owe are just really explosive athletes that you hope can translate and become good. And Peyton Turner, again, like you said, he's very athletic. He has the same physical profile. Honestly, it's very similar to Davenport, like you said, 6'6", 265. In terms of his you said you read about him a lot, and so his character was really high. I actually didn't know that, so that makes even more sense. And the other thing is, like, I'm not going to tell you I just sit and watched a ton of Peyton Turner because I really didn't. But the games I did watch, especially one, he made a giant impact, and that was the BYU game, the BYU Houston game. I thought Peyton Turner was maybe the best player on the field.
That was
in a game with Zach Wilson. Yeah, he dominated that game.
I think I watched Zach Wilson for the first time. I noticed like their edge, Houston's edge, and I'm like, wait a second, who is this? And I looked into more, and I was like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I that was the same thing for me. I didn't know who Peyton Turner was until I watched that game, and I didn't watch that game for Peyton Turner. I watched that game to watch Zach Wilson, and Peyton Turner dominated that game. So,
and again, it's the smaller school guys you get more appreciation for, or like for me, it's like I love watching the small school guys and the guys you know for colleges are not like pros all the time. You know, if you watch Alabama, of course you're going to see NFL potential guys. Watching, I mean, if you look at Alabama's offense, all of them are future first rounders or second rounders, or, a lot of guys are good players. And it doesn't take much scouting or much of a good eye to see that. I think when you go to like small school guys, I know Houston's not a small school, but for football's sake, it's a smaller school. And you got to have a better eye for that kind of stuff. And that kind of builds your reputation as a scout.
The thing I like actually about the non-Alabama guys is because with the Alabama guys, you already have a preconceived notion, right? You turn on Alabama and like before this season, you thought Alex Leatherwood is going to be a first-round pick. You thought, like you just think these things. Like Dylan Moses, he came into this season coming back from his ACL. He's going to be a first-round pick. Like you just have these preconceived notions built in because you know every single one of them, and like the reputation that surrounds them. So the cool thing with a guy like Peyton Turner is that all you're doing is really just watching football. And if he stands out to you, which he did, in my opinion, then yeah, he could be a really, really cool pick and a really, really good one too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Jason, what was your favorite pick of the draft?
Sam, you called it right before you tweeted it, man. Honestly, I'm going to go to the Jets. And what a year to go to the Senior Bowl. So many people who were at the Senior Bowl were drafted, and I really feel like that game really helped a lot of guys. The 49ers, I think they drafted, 5 guys who were there. Including Jalen Moore, who was there, but Michael Carter with the Jets is such a seamless fit. If they even profile, let alone the 49ers offense that's already going to be over there, they even profile as the 49ers, Tevin Coleman's over there. So Tevin Coleman will be there on first and second down, and they'll get it to Michael Carter, and they'll change drives, and Michael Carter.
Hey, don't forget about Ty Johnson too. Don't forget
Ty
about
Johnson's actually Ty Johnson's actually solid. Honestly, I really like that, and LaMichael P. Ryan's still there. So you still got some guys there, but honestly, I love the fit with Michael Carter, man. When I watched him at the Senior Bowl, he immediately jumped right out. You can't get a tackle on him. The first person who ever tries to tackle him, it doesn't matter how you try to tackle him, he's going to get away a different way. If you need him to push your helmet down and away from him, he will. If you need him to get out of an arm tackle, he will. Michael Carter was just dazzling when he was over there. We got a chance to talk with his family after the Senior Bowl as well. And, we were trying to recruit him to the 49ers. I don't know what that was for because we're not in control of the picks. But we told him, we told his father, like, hey, get your son to a Shanahan offense and rack up those 1,500 yards, right away with 7 touchdowns. And he was like, man, that's the hope. And he's going to get something similar to that. So I love the pick, honestly. And I think that the Jets did an amazing job in this draft. As many Jets fans as I spoke to, honestly, they always tell me something bad, or they always tell me, I'm not getting my hopes up. Well, things change, right? Things change. Things go good eventually, right? And I think that no matter what.
Look at the Knicks.
Right. There you go. Look.
Yeah.
There you go. Mm-hmm. The third best team in the East, right? It just takes a coaching change, a culture change. And honestly, when you look at what they're doing, I'm a big process over results guy. For all of these picks, I understand exactly what they were doing. If they don't pan out, that's fine. But I have no problem with the way that they went and they built this team, and then they did it through free agency and they did it in the draft. I love the way the Jets are going, honestly, and I love the things that they did in this draft. And Michael Carter was the one that I walked away like, man, I know that it sucks to draft running backs and people hate that idea, but he was such a fit. It made sense, and then the value was there where they took him, man. It was amazing to see where they got him, honestly, when he was like one of the best players in Mobile when we were down there.
Sam, I think that's your guy right there.
No, I did a lot of work on him. I like both guys, Williams and Carter. I love
Javonte. Yeah.
I remember when I finished my film, I always go look at scouting reports to see what other people think. I remember one guy wrote that it's not even worth using him in the pass game because he can't block because of his height and size. And I just think that's a terrible thing to say. I think no matter what your size is, you could still be a great pass protector in the NFL. I mean, I know he's only 5'8", I'm pretty sure, but I couldn't care less about that. You know,
Frank Gore, 5'9", 205.
Yeah,
real pass protector.
You know, I mean, on the NFL level, yeah, you value offensive linemen who can, you know, size like 6'7", 380, you know, but I think for running backs, it's, you know, you don't need size to be a good pass protector. It's all about technique. And, you know, if he has that, I saw it on tape, you know, you could see on tape, obviously. And as long as, you know, it translates to the NFL, I think it works. I think, you know, I think him going to the fourth round is a miracle for the Jets. You know, the Jets didn't have a pick in third round. And I thought for sure he was going to go in like late third round or, you know, mid third round. The fact that he didn't, total miracle.
Agreed. I agree with both of you. I thought he was one of the best picks in the draft. I thought the Niners, when they traded up, I thought it was for a corner, and I was hoping they would nab Michael Carter with one of the third round picks. I thought it was like the perfect fit and all of that.
Are we? Oh, all right. We're talking about the running back. I was about to say, didn't you guys have Michael Carter's, right? Yeah, you
actually the safety. I mean, the quarterback Michael Carter. He's really good too. I watched his film right after we drafted him because I didn't know too much about him. Very good slot corner, let me tell you.
Okay.
Highly recommend watching that guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't mean that, but what I meant was I wanted Michael Carter over Trey Sermon. Looking back, like I'm not that mad about it because Trey Sermon's pretty fantastic in his own different kind of way. But I loved Michael Carter throughout the draft. I thought he was the best value running back in the draft. I'm not saying I thought he was better than Etienne or Najee, but I thought that getting Michael Carter in the third or fourth round, or especially the third round, because I thought he would go in the third round, I thought it was better value than getting Etienne or Najee in the first or second round. I really did. In terms of running back.
I mean, I thought Carter was the best outside zone back in the draft.
That's the point. I 100% agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he was the best. I thought he was the best in tight spaces in the draft in terms of being able to make people miss and all of that. And so he runs really hard too. Like I think his size, it's not talked about enough. And you know, Croc talks about it all the time with Devonta Smith, how people really get caught up in that height weight number. Well, if you watch him on the field, he doesn't play like a 5'8", 5'9", 195-pound back. He plays bigger. It's a little bit like Philip Lindsay, right? Lindsay runs like he's a 225-pound back. That's how he throws his body around, but he's actually 190 pounds. And so I think that's what makes Michael Carter really good in terms of scheme fit, in terms of value. I thought it was a great pick. And then, Sam, not to be like overly, not to gas your head about your team with the Jets and all of that, but I think Jason hit it on the head. Like they killed it this draft in terms of value, fit. It all just made sense. I thought the AVT pick was actually incredible. I don't know why people on Twitter are so up in the air about it. I thought that was an incredible pick because I think AVT is more than capable of being a tackle in the NFL. And if he's not, you just drafted a high level guard, and they need offensive line help anyway. So,
you know, people like to say guard isn't as important or valuable as tackles. And, you know, if you have an argument, go ahead. But it's still very important to the game. You know, I don't care what you run offense. Guard is still very important to you know, what you want to do on offense. It is, and you know, you need good guards to be a good team in the NFL. Look at the Colts in drafting Nelson. I mean, you need good guards, and I don't say this on Twitter a lot. The value chart for the trading the draft picks doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. I think it depends. On the draft, I think it depends on the value of the players. It depends on all that. And you know, you could say the Vikings, you know, got a better trade. They got what, Wyatt Davis. They got Kellen Mond. They got Darius. Yeah, I had Wyatt Davis ranked very highly. I had Darius ranked very highly. But you know, you could say that. You could argue that, obviously. But in my opinion, I think trading to get Elijah Vera Tucker is just a great fit for what the Jets want to do because I think they won their trade.
Yep. Yeah. I 100% agree with that. So we've been going a little bit above time, so I apologize, Jason, for taking so much of your time.
You're good,
Sam.
bro.
Hey, all right, perfect. Then let's keep going, and I'll go to my favorite pick of the draft. And, you know, I think this guy is a little bit of an enigma. I saw a lot of people love this guy. I saw a lot of people not be sure about him. I personally loved him, and I love the team he went to. I love the defensive style he went to, and that's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Sam, I know we talked a little bit before the draft, and I told you I thought he was the best linebacker in the draft. And I do stand by that. I don't know. I get why there is a little bit of the Isaiah Simmons concern because he was used all over the place at Notre Dame. But I think Isaiah Simmons was a little more finesse coming out of college. I think JOK is a little more physical. I love the fit of him going to the Cleveland Browns. You know, their front is very similar like to the Seattle style, the 49ers.
Well, I think the reason Jock dropped was because I think he had a heart concern.
He had that.
And tweeners always drop in the draft.
Right, of course. Except for Solomon Thomas, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, so like I love the player so much that I just thought it was the best pick in the draft. I think especially because the defense he's going to, it's not like they're going to be asking him to take on 200 and 305 pound pulling guards and all of that. No, it's like a Seattle style defense. They got I'm blanking on his name, the guy from the Colts. He's going to be their middle linebacker. I think that he's going to JOK is going to be like the perfect will linebacker for their defense. He can do that at 215 pounds, 220 pounds. I think the best comp actually for him is probably Telvin Smith. If you remember Telvin Smith 2-3 years ago on the Jaguars, the speed, the ability and coverage, all of that, I think he's a better version of that. I think Browns primarily run quarters anyway, so they're going to be a split safety defense, and they have John Johnson and Grant Delpit. And so I don't think you should use him as a safety, but I think he would be the perfect weak side linebacker. And I personally thought the Browns killed it in the draft. I think Andrew Berry is killing it. And because I love JOK so much, I just love that pick.
No, the Browns definitely killed the draft. It seems like they have in the past 3 years. I feel like every draft we're saying the Browns killed it, or after every offseason in general, the Browns killed it, and it's really showing.
Good. He went in the first or the second?
Second, pick 52.
All right. Yeah. So that was the buzz in the room too. After the pick went off, everybody started looking around like, wow, like how did he make it here? Like this value and in Cleveland. Right, that was exactly what everybody was saying, the same exact things. And honestly, man, I know this might sound like a hot take, man, but the Browns are ready to like go against the Chiefs again next year, man. I swear this team is loaded enough on defense.
Wait, you think that's a hot take? Last time you were on, I told you that I think they're going to win the AFC this year. And I'm going to say it again. I think they're going to win the AFC this year.
That's a hot take.
They are the 2018 Rams, the 2019 Niners, the 2021-22 Cleveland Browns are that team. And I think Baker Mayfield is slightly better, actually, than both Jimmy Garoppolo and Jared Goff.
Let's see how Baker progresses. He played pretty well last year, but he has to play better. Yeah. Every single year he has to progress as a player.
Stefanski did a great job of just making sure that he had easy throws, wide open play action throws. I think that's still going to happen. You're still going to run the ball, 80 times with Chubb and Hunt. You know, I think that they'll be fine, man. And that defense, the defense got better.
Their defense got better. Their defense is going to be healthier. Yeah. Their offensive line is still the best in the NFL. I thought their defensive line got a little better. That's probably my only spot of concern, but they still have Myles Garrett, who might be the best defensive player in football outside of Aaron Donald. So, yeah, the Browns are cooking with fire. They got a lot.
They signed Clowney, right?
Yeah, can you rely on that?
No,
that's fine. As a rotational guy?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Situational guy? Did they draft an edge? I don't.
I know they drafted. Let me pull up their draft
because
right now.
I was actually mocking edge to them. I thought if they could pair up an edge alongside Garrett to like work with Clowney as a situational or rotational guy, that could have been great for them. But
yeah. So that was the buzz in the room. Everybody was like, "How in the world did the Browns pull this one off?" Like again, like that was what everybody was saying the same thing when that name came across. Everybody was like, "How?" And I think that just speaks to how well they've been drafting, honestly, man. And I think it speaks to what you guys are talking about, how tweeners drop. But if the Browns in that scheme, he's gonna be fine, honestly. And I think that it's gonna look like a huge steal, even if Vish is calling it a steal right now. I think people are gonna look back and say, "Man, what a steal!" Like all these guys that went ahead of him.
And I think they're capable of using him, right? Like
100%, yeah.
Right. Like in every defense, he's not probably a fit at linebacker. And there is like questions about where you would play him. Is he a safety? All of that. Or is he just a big nickel? All of that. But I think for their defense, you can plug him. Quan Alexander was 226, 225 pounds as a weak side linebacker. And he's more than physical enough. He's fast enough. I actually don't see the problem with just inserting him as a weak side linebacker because he is physical. And that's not about his weight. That's about how he plays.
Yep.
Nate's got a really good comment here. Jason, if you don't know, Nate's Sam's buddy. He's one of the smartest people I've ever heard when it comes to talking about football. He's incredible. He's a future coach. So make sure you guys, everybody knows this name right now because you're going to be hearing it in the future. And I think this is interesting. He says they're aiming for multiplicity. They are starting to embrace positionless team building, a strategy that basketball started a few years ago, have to match with Baltimore, KC, etc. Yeah. I mean, this is your guy to cover Travis Kelce.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that he's not pigeonholed. No, but I think that he's not pigeonholed like Isaiah Simmons was. I was about to say Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Simmons kind of got pegged, like, is like, oh, the George Kittle stopper. And I think that, again, Arizona didn't use him well either, So I don't know what they have with him, but yeah, I think that they tried to just take that to heart and just say, all right, well, go ahead, go cover, and then Raheem Mostert beats him on a choice route in week 1, and everybody starts to say, oh God, maybe we made a mistake here,
Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, but Isaiah Simmons was more finesse coming out of college than JOK, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that. Yeah, definitely.
And that's really why I'm a little more convinced with him. And, to be fair to Simmons, like, he had that rough start. He wasn't playing all that. When they made him their middle linebacker at the end of the season, he actually played quite well down the stretch of the season.
Yeah, it was a lot about, the Cardinals had to figure out how to use him. It wasn't all him. I think it was just the Cardinals didn't really know how to use him from the start. And they kind of had to, figure it out as the year went on. And they kind of did, like you said, like the last couple of games. But let's see if that can carry over to the next season. That's like the big thing. Yeah, exactly. If it can't carry over, then, it's a draft pick that is almost wasted.
Right. Absolutely. So I got one more topic for you guys. It's going to be a quick one. Jason, I know I've taken a lot of your time. Thank you for coming on. Sam, same thing. Thank you also for coming on.
Good, bro. Thank you.
And it's just going to be really simple. It's just going to be another generic draft question. And is there one team that you think got a lot better from the draft?
I'm going to say the 2 quarterback teams, the Jets and the Bears. I think the Bears got a lot better, Justin Fields. Not really for now, but just the future of the team. I think they weren't doing well from the quarterback position for a long time, the whole Trubisky situation, and they traded for Foles, which made no sense over a guy like Cam Newton. But then, drafting Fields really shows me that, they really have a future, like offensively. I think the offense has really held defense a lot, like held it back, especially if an offensive coach is not what you want to see. But I think, it puts pressure on the team. And the same thing with the Jets. I think it puts a lot of pressure on the offensive coaching. Because the Jets really struggled offensively last year too. And was the quarterback, was the coach, was it both? They got a new quarterback, new coach. We'll see what can happen. They attacked the draft. They trade out for a guard. They got a running back, Elijah Moore, steal in the second round. They got a lot of like tweener guys in the later rounds, a lot of athletic guys. Guys you can coach up to be, good corners, good safeties, good linebackers, stuff like that. I remember actually, I was watching they got 2 undrafted free agents from Rutgers, a safety and a tackle. The tackle was pretty good. They got 2 tackles in the late round, or they got 1 tackle late round, 1 tackle undrafted free agent, and they're both athletic profiles, high side guys. Yeah. So I think the Jets and the Bears.
Jason?
Jets, man. I mean, I'm going to keep talking about it, honestly. When you get Elijah Vera Tucker, you get, my guy Michael Carter, then you get Elijah Moore. So the way that their roster constructing right now is amazing, right? You already drafted Denzel Mims. You get Corey Davis. Those are your 2 outside guys. Elijah Moore is going to profile right in the slot. We all love Jamison Crowder. He's definitely underrated, but I think, now his time is done here. So now he'll move on and he'll make some team happy. Absolutely. That's a team that maybe the 49ers should maybe watch for real quick, like just in case when, if the Jets, cut somebody, then all of a sudden you could bring him in. I've campaigned for Golden Tate and D.D. Westbrook, but I will campaign for Jamison Crowder harder than all 3 of those guys, honestly, when it comes to that. But honestly, offensively, you beefed up the line. Mekhi Becton's already a stud. You've already got your quarterback of the future. Like I said, process over results. Everything that they've done in this draft has been fit, has been calculated. They're doing all the right things, stepping in the right direction. If you guys win 7 games next year, right? That means you'll be 7-10. It's still a step in the right direction.
It's an improvement, and all we can ask for is improvement.
And it always has to be, how did you win these games and how did you lose those games? Did you lose those games because you were close and maybe a more experienced team, maybe a deeper team finishes those games off? Good. You need to be moving in the right direction. I think that's exactly what the Jets are doing right now. If they win 7 games, it's going to be a spectacular 7 games, meaning that you're going to have much to look forward to. It's not going to be 7 games that are like, oh, they lucked their way into 7 games. You'll look at them and say, this is a different football team. The culture has changed and they're moving in the right direction. Love what the Jets have done. Rooting for Robert Saleh and that entire staff and that team over there.
Yeah, I'm also going to say the Jets. I hate when the media hypes up.
I love the Jets love. I
hate, I was so skeptical of Joe Douglas, and, we'll still have to see these picks pan out. So who knows? It's always dumb to do these things after the draft, but this is what we have to do. So we do it, but we'll see. But I'm always skeptical, like guys that the media, because they're close with guys in the media, like Joe Douglas is super close with Daniel Jeremiah. So NFL Network is always pro Joe Douglas and all of that. And, Chris Ballard is super in with a lot of the media people. So we always talk about Chris Ballard and how he's the greatest GM ever and all of that. When there's people like Andrew Berry and Tom Telesco and Rick Spielman who have been drafted, especially Telesco and Rick Spielman, in my opinion, who've been drafting excellently for like 4 or 5 years, and we just don't talk about them because they're just not tight with people in the media. So I'm always a little skeptical. And then I'm extra skeptical when it comes to New York or NFC East teams, because whatever they do always gets talked about. It either gets made as the greatest moves ever or it gets made as the worst move ever. It's always very polarizing with the reaction and all of that. But I actually thought the Jets were super smart. I thought everything they did, it looks like we lost Jason there, but I thought everything they did was really intelligent. I thought it made sense. I thought they picked a lot of, obviously we think they're really good players. That's why we're excited about them. But I thought everything they did makes sense. I'm just really excited to see how it turns out. But in terms of what the Jets did, welcome back, Jason. You're good. In terms of what the Jets did, I thought it all made sense, and I thought they markedly improved. I thought they got better in terms of their weapons with Elijah Moore and Michael Carter. I thought their line got a lot better because of Elijah Vera Tucker. I thought their defense, for the most part, I'm actually a little more bullish on their defense than most people. I think they got a solid little safety tandem. Their corners, that's a big concern, but you're going to primarily play zone defense, so it's not going to be that bad. And then I think their defensive line is already really good, especially Quinnen Williams, man. Quinnen Williams is a monster. If he's healthy, watch out for Quinnen Williams. And, I'm actually high on Jared Davis to the Jets. That's all I'll say. I think that was a signing where you're going to find out how much fit means for a player, right? He's a fast, violent linebacker. If you put him in a scheme like Robert Saleh's, that all you're really asking your linebackers do is just play fast. Your fits are simple. It's not like, hey, you have to, if the tight end does this, you have to robot him. You have to do this. You have to do that. And the Saban cover 7 stuff and the Patriots defense stuff, which requires a linebacker to think a lot. But Jared Davis, when he came out of college, is just fast and violent. And that's what I expect him to be on the Jets. So I actually think they actually have a decent enough talent. I'm not saying they're going to be good, but I think, like Jason said, 7 wins is a really, really positive step. And I think they have the team to do that.
Carl Lawson too, man.
Oh, Carl Lawson, unbelievable. Yeah.
Good gosh, man. That's what I'm saying. This team is moving in the right direction. I don't know how look, even the most pessimistic Jets fan has to be looking at themselves and saying, you know what? This is a step in the right direction. That's it. I understand if all you know is pain. I get all that. And I understand, you want to set yourself up to not be disappointed, but you have to be excited. Be excited for a little bit, honestly. And I think the Jets fans should be, man.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Like, Sam, you should be excited.
Oh,
this
I
should
am.
be a little bit.
I'm excited,
he is, but he's tempered. He's tempered. He's tempered.
I know what can go wrong. I know.
I can tell, Sam.
Yeah.
Sam is trying to be down. Sam's trying to be down the middle. He's optimistic, but Sam is just also, he just knows that other side of it. So he's just again.
I'm looking at Arch Manning coming out of college in like 5 years. I'm thinking like, oh. He could probably be a Jet. So
can we talk about real quick? What's the worst thing in the world? PFF is putting out mock drafts for next year already. What in God? Why?
After this year, I'm not ready for the quarterback discussion.
You think that's bad?
Ready. Yeah.
I think that's awesome because that's the kind of thing that Jason, like 2 months from now when we're on a clubhouse, so when we're on a clubhouse and I'm chilling because, I'm on summer and all of that, I can come in and, when I start complaining about the draft and I start complaining about draft content and, I did a lot of the things I hate doing and always complaining about this season. So I'm a hypocrite.
Cherry pick
we did a lot of content like that. But the point is that when I can at least come in and talk about like, dude, they do mock drafts in the beginning of 2020. Well, look at this. I'll never get past it, Jason. I can never get past the early 2019 mock drafts for 2020 having Jake Fromm as a top 10 pick. And I remember because I'd watched a lot of Jake Fromm on Georgia. This was just all on TV. And you look at the guy throw the ball in terms of his arm strength, and I was like, wow. So are we just going to take another Christian Ponder in the first round? We're really doing this? Really? But thank God Jake Fromm went where he's appropriate to go. Nothing against him. Solid player, future backup in the NFL, but never should have been a top 10 in the top 10 conversation. So I like it. I can now complain and rant about this kind of stuff more.
So I think what's weak about it is that they're already projecting where people are going to finish. They've got the Jets finishing third and picking third again. I don't foresee that.
I mean, you never know. I
don't foresee that. It would have to be injuries, or it would have to be like, you know, a bunch of things going wrong that we can't foresee right now. But I don't foresee the Jets being that bad next year. There's no way.
I'll take Stingley. I mean, I'm pretty sure they had him go at taking Derek. Yeah. So I'll take him. You know, we got quarters pretty bad.
So let me ask you this, Jason, Sam, you guys have watched a lot of Stingley. The one big game that I really watched of Stingley, because I didn't really watch the 2019 LSU defense. I was more worried about their offense, and I really like Joe Burrow, but was the Alabama game. And Devontae Smith ate his lunch money. Devontae Smith absolutely abused Derek Stingley in the Alabama game. Like, people talk about Jamar Chase versus A.J. Terrell in the championship game. I thought Devontae Smith actually beat up Derek Stingley worse in that game. And so
I mean, well, who didn't he beat?
What are your thoughts on it?
Right. I mean, he was the Heisman. And honestly, Stingley's 19 years old. That's another thing that I got to start getting through my mind, too, is that, like, bro, 19?
True.
The 19-year-olds my way, they work at, like, a pizza place. They're not playing for LSU, like, at cornerback. So, I mean, not that I'm trying to make mistakes for him. Or excuses for him or anything like that. But, and again, Devontae Smith did win the Heisman. But, I think that, look, Stingley will put it together this year. I guarantee you'll probably see him as the top 1-2 cover corner. I'll have to defer to people that I really trust, like Crnic and guys that
obviously
know cornerback play. You know, but you kind of foresee him going there as well too. And there's no shame in having Devontae Smith beat you now if you get to the league and Devontae Smith starts doing that.
This was 2 years ago.
That's what I'm saying. So if you get to the league and Devontae Smith is still doing it, then we got a problem. But honestly, a 17-year-old kid 2 years ago, I'm not really going to kill him for that.
And that's actually an awesome point. And I think that doesn't get brought up enough in the draft. Like with Zach Wilson, we talk about like, why wasn't he as good in 2019, you know, and we talk, and there are reasons like his body, you know, his wrist and shoulder, you could see that's ailing him. But there's also another reason, because I'm that age right now, and I know how different I am physically from when I was 18 to when I'm 21, or when I'm 19 to when I'm 21, in terms of physically, in terms of mentally, all of that. There's been a lot of growth that I've seen within myself in the last few years. So there's no telling, I feel like that's something that needs to be talked about more, how much we harp on these guys, you know, for one game when they're 19, like, wow, a novel concept. A 19-year-old can grow and become better at something by the time they're 21. Like, whoa, this is mind-blowing. Zach Wilson could have gotten better at football. Like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, to highlight Zach Wilson, I mean, I remember reading his shoulder was only 70% in 2019, like when he started playing that year.
That's crazy.
I mean, imagine playing on he's tough. A tough kid.
And I liked him a lot too. And you brought up the USC game earlier, Sam, because you know how you're a big USC fan. I feel like if you go back and watch the USC game, maybe he's got maybe 85% or 90% of the zip that he had in 2020. But if you watch the USC game, I feel like you see a pretty special quarterback in terms of how he played, especially if you go back and watch.
I think it's all about the flashes. You know, you see flashes of what happened in 2020. Yeah. And you saw it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And all of his 2019 wasn't like the USC game, but when people say he didn't play competition and all of that. But
I don't know if you watched his first game against Utah. That was ugly. You know, a lot of
it's just I watched it because I think when you first shared Wilson's 2019, I think it's the first one on there. So I just pulled it up and I went to see it. I think I was like halfway through the game and I was like, wow, this is really bad.
No, it definitely gave me a headache. You know, halfway through the game.
Yeah, but guys, it's been a pleasure to have you guys on. We need to do this again. This was super fun. We got to talk more all things NFL. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please follow Sam and read his work. Are you at Sam Cernic on Twitter?
Yeah, just at Sam Cernic. Yep.
At Sam Cernic, and he's a really good writer for the Jets X Factor. Jason Aponte, everybody knows him, at Jason Aponte 2103, and subscribe to his YouTube channel. They got awesome content. It's not just Jason Aponte. I think they got a guy who's really underrated with him in Andrew Pasquini, who brings his own unique stuff, and he's also really great. They're great together.
Good quarterback,
it's
too.
not just Jason.
That sounds pro day.
Yeah. Good quarterback, too.
Imagine if you had a good receiver.
That's true. Yeah. But so really good quarterback, too. But, yeah, make sure you subscribe. Jason, I think you're at what? You posted something on Twitter. How many subs are you at?
Yeah, so I just passed 1,800, trying to close in on 2,000 before.
Hey, get my man to 2,000 tonight. Come on, you got to do it.
Camp this week is going to be opening up for the 49ers, and the schedule comes out on Wednesday. Hopefully we're going to have some content going on with that as well, where, maybe we'll make a too early prediction. But, we're back in the saddle, so content's going to be flowing again. Just it felt like a dull week in between the draft, and now camps are opening up.
Yeah, so, get my man to 2,000. Make sure you follow Sam Cernic, and then at Jason Aponte 213. I'm sure you're all following him. I mean, he's got like 1,000 more followers than the rest of us, so we're just trying to become as big as Jason Aponte. Again, thank you all for joining us. I will probably be on with Grant tomorrow, and then Blake and I will be streaming soon. It's summer break, so we might be streaming a little more often this week than anticipated. So just keep an eye on my Twitter. I'll tweet out when we're streaming on. Please like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.